Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. For those of you way outside, can you hear me right up the very back? Yep? Okay. Firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone here today as we remember, as we honour and we celebrate the life of Glen Keedle. My name is Paul Young and I'm a celebrant. From myself, from all of us at Hanson and Cole, we want to offer our condolences to Glen's family and many, many friends. But also would like to welcome those of you that are watching on, family and friends, wherever you are. But in particular, thanks to all who have travelled near and far to be here today. You know, there are no words of comfort that can cushion the shock experience when one is faced with the loss of a loved one. And in Glen's passing, you know, there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason, any meaning or sense. Rather, we feel deep, deep hurt that such a thing can happen. But we can all be a support for each other throughout this grieving process. And I want to make it clear that we're here today to celebrate Glen's life rather than to mourn his death. I want to share with you a little bit of a story. It's a little bit of Glen's story. As written by his family, I'd like to read it on their behalf. Glen was born in 1974 to parents Judith and Neil Keedle. He was the youngest in his family, having two older brothers, Grant and Michael, and sister Lisa, all of whom he absolutely dearly cherished. As many of you would know, he grew up living on Central Avenue and was a true Oaks Flat local. Glen was always getting into trouble, causing his parents stress. Whenever there was trouble, he was often spotted in the crowd and, given his height, would often lead to the police stating Keedle was there. Glen would enjoy playing backyard cricket with his siblings and cousins and riding his bike to the local pool. He was the only sibling to receive a brand new Malvern Star yellow push bike that he'd often ride around to Oak Flats. He enjoyed the freedom that the new bike gave him, riding around town, socialising and living life to the fullest. He was fiercely protective of his siblings during the school years and always made time for kids that were either in trouble or being picked on. He was known as being the class clown. He had a good heart and a way of making people laugh without even trying. He never worried too much about consequences and was always the first to take on any dare or cheeky comment. His cousin Sandra recounts learning German in class. Of course, Glen used this to his advantage, happily pronouncing German words as Aussie swear words. When the teacher told him to cut it out, he'd shrug and say, "I'm just practicing my German, sir." He kept at it until he finally got kicked out of the classroom and off he walked with that trademark smirk of his. Glen definitely knew his way around the principal and the deputy's office. In those middle years, Glen was into four-wheel driving. He'd often go on adventures in his brown Nissan Patrol. During his 20s, Glen would have 3 children whom he always said was his life's greatest achievement. Jade was his firstborn child, who he shared with Jodie in 1997. In 1998, Glen would welcome his son Nathan with partner Kay. And in 2001 saw the arrival of their daughter Stella. In their early years, Glen would be involved with their sports, coaching Nathan's AFL side, the Shell Harbour Swans. He'd take Stella to her soccer games when she was little and would, in later years, they'd be gym buddies. Jade was also a talented dancer in her teenage years and he was very proud of her achievements at the Stedfords. Glen's had several careers during his lifetime, ranging from an apprentice glazier, a tree lopper, and a safety officer. Glen would eventually start his own business, all-round tree and garden care. Over 15 years later, he has become one of the biggest tree companies right here in the Illawarra. Glen joined the Fourth Reich Motorcycle Club in 2005. It was here he would find a brotherhood that he absolutely cherished dearly. It became a major part of his identity, and last year, 2024, proudly became a life member. In his later years, Glen met his current wife, Julie. They'd enjoyed many years together, sharing a passion for fun times and for adventure. Glen was very kind-hearted. He would do anything for anyone. This ranged from using his cherry picker to rescue a friend's cat from a tree, to using his Harley to transport a student for their graduation. In recent years, he became a godfather for the first time to Sophia, a role that he was very honoured to have bestowed upon him. Glen loved his friends, his family, and brothers. You know, we've got a few tributes to share with you, but before we go any further, I want to just take a moment. I want to share some thoughts with you on two very important things that turn into one when we lose our loved ones. They being grief and love. And I want to start by saying we should never fear to grieve. You know, those tears out there that you're shedding, the feelings of loss that you had for Glen, they tell me and all of us what we already know. And that is how much he was loved and how much he's going to be missed. In fact, those tears and those feelings, they're a privilege. Because we don't grieve for those not loved or respected. And you're all here today, whether you're in the marquee, you're outside the marquee, or wherever you are, all here because you loved and you respected Glen in your own special ways. And we cannot think of his death without resolving to live a fuller and a more meaningful life of our own. And you know, grief takes so many forms. We grieve for those that we've lost. We grieve for opportunities that we might have missed throughout a person's life. Sometimes we grieve for things we've said, and things we regret we didn't get to say. So we should always remember to take those chances in life whilst we have them. And you know, we do those little things. We sit and talk, or we share, or we cry, but more importantly, we should all take that time to laugh and to love and to encourage and to celebrate with all those that we feel closest to, because there is no time like the present. And we've all lost loved ones. And over the years, wonderful memories come back to us from those we've lost in the smallest and the simplest of ways. You know, for Glen, it'd be down here at the clubhouse. So get together with your family, catch up with your mates, flicking through a photo album, or maybe out on a ride. It's places you might have been together, conversations that you've had. Memories come back to us when we're watching reruns of old TV shows or movies that we might have grown up on. Or maybe taking a ride through the streets of Oak Flats, thinking about all the places you might have been. But more often than not, memories come back to us when we're sitting and listening to music. Because a tune can make us teenagers again. You know, on their own, all those things are small and insignificant, but you put those little things together with memories of someone no longer with us, and it's the little things we hold on to the most. So whenever Glen comes in your minds, recall those special personal qualities that made this man so truly unique to each and every one of you. You know, his family wrote out a number of tributes, and I want to share them with you now. So, the first one, and we'll give that honour to Glen's dad, Neil. Where are you, Neil? He writes, Vale Glen, the word goodbye can have such a profound effect. And today, as I farewell my son, that word will stay in my heart for as long as I shall live. And Glen's legacy will last forever. I say farewell to my son Glen. His sister Lisa wrote, Dearest Glen, you lived your life to the fullest, always, from dusk till dawn. You created 3 beautiful children whom you are fiercely proud of. You are married to your soulmate Julie and the greatest love of your life. You cherished your parents, adored your nieces and nephews, and you loved your cousins and your extended family. Life will never be the same without you here. But for now, I'm not saying goodbye to my baby brother. I'm saying thank you. Thank you for every smile, every laugh, and the love that you showed me. I will miss you every day, Glen, but I'll also carry you with me every day. Rest gently and peacefully. I love you always. Lisa. Son Nathan writes, my father was my hero. The strongest, fiercest, most loyal person I've ever known. But he's also the most loving, compassionate and understanding when he needed to be. I wish this wasn't goodbye, but at least I can say you truly did live your life to its fullest. With help from your brothers here today. I have no doubt you truly did that. You will forever be with me. Every time I hear a Harley, every time I order my chicken burger with no lettuce, and every time I crack open a rum. I love you, Dad. You'll never be forgotten till we meet again. Jade said, Dad, our gentle giant, I have so much to say, and yet I'm finding it so hard to put it all into words. My heart has never felt so heavy or so sad. I wish I could be there for you today. Thank you for always being there for me and for always offering to help me when you could. I look forward to making you proud, and you know you will be beside me all the whole way. I love you, and I am thankful and honoured to have been able to grow up having you as my dad. And then this one. Firstly, I'd like to say a massive thank you to each and every one of you that have gathered here today to honour and remember my amazing father, Glen. I'm sure you all have unique stories you could share of my father's kindness and just being an all-round great man. She then writes, I'm Glen's youngest daughter, Stella. To the club, I want to say thank you for the 20 plus years that you shared with my father. Growing up from a little girl to now has been incredibly special for me. Dad was so lucky to have you all. I'd like to share a few memories of my dad. One morning, when he was snoring away on the lounge, oh, and by the way, Stella said, could he snore? We knew he was out cold, so Jade and I decided to grab a black marker and draw a huge smiley face on his belly. When he woke up, you could just imagine his face and how pissed he was. He couldn't wash it off, and we couldn't stop laughing. One of my favourite memories was my first experience going on your bike, corner to corner, getting your rat's tail whipped in my face. That bloody hurt. You were so proud. Another time when I got off the bike on the wrong side and my ankle touched the hot exhaust. Now that's a burn I'll never forget. Your words were, "You'll be right, you silly bugger." You worked so hard, Dad. I was so proud of all the things that you have achieved. You told me the week that you were heading to the race that your business had just become number one within schools. I wish I could have told you one more time how proud I was of you. Today, Dad, I know you're listening, so I'll tell you now. I'm proud of you. I'll miss being your little helper, going from quote to quote. You would always call me your little apprentice. My father had a way of making others feel safe, seen, heard, and above all else, valued. I know you're up there revving your engine, full throttle, wind in your face, riding free, without a care in the world and doing what you love. Thank you for loving and protecting me like a father should. Your kindness and your presence shaped who I am today. You taught Nathan and myself what it means to work hard, to be honest, and to care for others, and to never hold a grudge. It was the little things, Dad. The Thursday and Sunday family dinners with yourself, Pa, Nathan and Julie, that we will forever be grateful for. I love you, Dad. I'll always be your little girl. Rest in peace. You know, before I get Julie up here, just give me a minute. You know, they say, so long as somebody's spoken about, they're never truly gone. And what we've just heard from family members are memories that were shared. Just private memories that everyone is now a part of. And as I said, if you're spoken about, you're never truly gone. There's got to be tens of thousands of stories out there to be told about Glen Keedle. At least tens of thousands. You know, you need to make sure you share those stories over the coming days and weeks and months and even years, not just with each other, but with Glen's family. They want to know. They want to hear those stories for years to come, to bring a smile to their faces, maybe a tear to their eyes. But he needs to be spoken about. For the man that he was, the man that he'll always be around his brothers. Because, as we heard, it's the club that made him the happiest, apart from his family. He lived for both. Julie, come and tell us about your husband.
I'm under police interrogation. 20 years ago, fate crossed our paths. Dwayne, Donnie and Banjo dragged Glen out of the house and took him for a ride where they would end up at the Oaks Hotel, where I worked. I vividly remember seeing Glen for the first time, thinking he was beautiful, but looked like trouble and bad news. My suspicions would soon be confirmed when he did a massive burnout upon leaving, filling the entire pub with a thick smoke. Over the next few months, we developed a friendship where he would come visit me after work at Tony's Tree Care while I was working behind the bar. He would have a beer and we would chat. This would eventually lead to having a lunch date during company time. Sorry, Chip. Glen said after 10 years of dating, we could get married. In 2014, after 9 years of dating, he let me off 12 months for good behaviour and we tied the knot. Glen always said he had given me the best years of my life, and he was right. I will forever be grateful and cherish our time together. During my time with Glen, I was fortunate enough to become a stepmother to Jade, Nathan and Stella. I have watched them grow into the beautiful, caring, thoughtful young adults they are. In recent times, we have banded and worked together to keep this family ship sailing. Glen told me on numerous occasions his proudest accomplishment in his life was his children. He loved you very dearly and will always be watching over you. I'm also blessed to have gained a second father, Neil, who I think is an absolute legend. I can see where Glen gets his thirst for adventure and stubbornness from. I'm also blessed to call Grant and Michael my brothers and Lisa my sister. I'd like to think Glen is watching over all of us now, with his dearly loved brother Grant and beautiful mother Judith in spirit. Glen is fortunate to have several nieces and nephews, Luke, Katie, Nicholas and Alec. Although we may live in separate states and countries, when we do get together, it is quite special. Family is very important to Glen, and he will no doubt watch over you as you progress on your life's journey. To Glen's other family members and friends here today, thank you for the fun times and memories you have shared. Finally, I'd like to give a very heartfelt thank you to the Fourth Reich. I will forever be grateful for the support you have given me and the family during this very difficult time. The brotherhood and memories you have shared over the years with Glen made his life complete. Thank you.
I've got to tell you, when Julie got up here under these lights, she said, I feel like I'm under police interrogation lights. It does feel a little bit like that though, doesn't it? So I'd now like to call on a representative of the club to please come forward to share with us his words.
On behalf of the Fourth Reich Motorcycle Club, I want to thank you all for joining us here today to celebrate the life of our brother, our president and our friend, Glen Anthony Lefty Keedle. In particular, I'd like to acknowledge our brothers from the Gypsy Jokers Motorcycle Club, along with our friends from the Black Yulins MC, Club Deros MC, Outcasts MC, Banditos MC and Mongols MC. Glen was a bloke who had a way of bringing people together, whether it was his Thursday dinners with Pa, Sunday dinners with the kids and the odd stray bikie, riding down the highway on some random mission to a pub in the middle of nowhere, or smuggling my kids from another country so they could be with me at my wedding. It would warm Glen's heart to see all these different clubs here at our place. It was all about living our lives the way we choose to and telling them ones and them BMWs out there to get fucked. So if there was ever any good to come from this tragedy, let it be the strengthening of the bonds between these clubs. If the world wants to lock us out of their places, let's open our places for each other. I want to thank everybody for their offers of support and for their condolences we received from every corner of the country and from overseas. I want to thank everyone who gave their time and efforts around here to ensure we send our brother off in the way that he deserves. I want to thank the staff at Hanson and Cole who went over and above to help get Glen back and facilitate all the crazy requirements that I set for them. I want to make a very special mention and extend our deepest gratitude to Azza from the Hells Angels MCWA and Gus from Club Dero's MC for your efforts to keep our brother alive on the night of the accident. Our brothers who were at the event have told me and us what you did and how long you did it for, and for that you have our eternal thanks. Finally, I want to thank the WA Gypsy Jokers for looking after our lads when this happened, organising to ship their bikes back and everything else that came after. I can't tell you how shit it is when something like this happens on the other side of the country and you can't do anything about it. Not knowing what's happening and stuck in the bureaucracy of hospitals and police that don't want to tell you anything. So thank you, boys. I've had the honour and the privilege of working through the funeral arrangements with Glen's wife Jules over the last 4 weeks. The quiet dignity and courage you have shown through what must have been the worst times of your life was something very humbling to me. You, Stella and Nathan will always be part of our family. And if you ever need anything, you only need to ask and the right will answer. Red, are you in here anywhere, mate? Part of that bureaucracy I was talking about led to Glen being sent back to New South Wales with his wedding ring missing. Jules rang around, finally tracked it down at a hospital, but the hospital said that they wouldn't send it over. So I contacted Red straight away, and he told me immediately that he would go in and pick it up, and he's carried it all the way back with him to give it to you today, Jules. Okay. To my president, my brother, and my friend, thank you for 2 decades of priceless memories. Thank you for everything that you did for me, and thank you for everything you did for the club. You are immortal now, brother. No fading out to old age for you. You are our number 13, and we will never forget. Forthright.
You know, you all have your own memories of Glen. You all shared different parts of his life. And each of those memories are yours. Nobody's going to take those away from you. And those memories come together to form part of the mesh that make up who you are. So I'm going to ask you now to take this opportunity and reflect upon those times that you shared together. We'll now have a photo presentation. Very shortly, we'll be taking Glen on his final ride. But to give us more instructions on that, could I invite our representative to please come back to the microphone?
Crunched it up, mate. Sorry guys, I forgot I was doing this. I crunched it up. All right. Very shortly we'll be locking most of this joint up and escorting Glen to his final resting place at Croom Lane, Albion Park Cemetery. As you've probably seen out there, we will have an escort. Now I've talked to them and they've given me an assurance that if we stop at the traffic lights, use our indicators, don't do any burnouts, they're going to leave us alone all the way there and all the way back. So let's see if they can tell the truth this time. My plan is to have us back here at about 3 p.m. and we'll have some food arriving about 3:30. And I'll invite you all to come back here and share some stories about Glen, have a feed and some refreshments. So you're welcome to stay here. This place is going to be open. Everyone on a bike. I hope you follow us out to Croom Road Cemetery. Thank you.
So with that being said, could I ask those of you that are in the tent to please be upstanding? Those of you that can. Thank you.